Good morning and welcome to the channel. In today's video, I am going to be showing you how I make fertilizer out of items that I've already used in the kitchen. If you'd like to see me do that, stay tuned. I did not turn on my microphone, so guess what? I'm going to have to do a voiceover for all of this. It's morning time. My goodness. So today I am using cuties. I am not a huge orange eater, but I love mayonnaise and cuties. So I'll be taking these cuties that I dehydrated, and I'll be using this NutriBullet that I replaced a free one that I had a couple years ago that broke down on me. I found it on sale, so I bought it just for these types of tasks. So I'm going to be taking my cuties, placing them inside of my NutriBullet, and blending them down to make fertilizer. Now I have cuties here. I also have lemons here. The lemon peels will be used as insect repellent, and I have eggs. I will also be using eggs, and I'll be placing those eggs in the garden as well as in my worm compost bin, and I also have tea leaves. So all of what you see here, I'll be using in some form or fashion to make fertilizer. Now I have tea bags that I've made myself, and I have tea bags that I purchased from the store. Now I use my tea and my eggshells in a container that I got from work. This is nothing more than a recycled container that had a lid. I thought it would be useful, so I took it, and I put in here fertilizer that I use for not only my houseplants, my garden, but as well as my worm bin. I have another container that I took from work. I use this as a compost bin in my office. What I do is I leave it on my desk, and my coworkers bring me items that they would otherwise throw in the trash. This is also a recycled container that I got from work. As you can see, it has some items in it. I was brought some bananas as well as a bell pepper that was looking real shady. But I will be taking these items and using them either outdoors in the compost or my compost worm bin, or in my liquid fertilizer bucket that I call my goop juice bucket out in the garden. But I also collect, as I mentioned, items from work so that I can also continue to compost. It's morning, y'all, and I'm struggling with this container top. My goodness, really? I can't put the container top back on? Goodness. Got it. The NutriBullet makes me nervous every time I use it. I don't know if it's the noise or the fact that you've got to put this top on it. It just feels like it's going to start blowing up all over the kitchen and cutting you to pieces, but I still try to use it. So what I do is I take the container off. I have not cleaned it out because, again, I use this just for making fertilizer, and it's not that important to me because it's all dry goods. I open it up. I crush down or take pieces of the cuties and place them in the container and then blend them down. So that's what I'm going to be doing here. So let me get started. Before I do that, this is where I keep my citrus peels. If you open this container up, it smells amazing. There's just something about the smell of citrus. It's absolutely lovely. As I mentioned, you take your citrus peels, you break them down a little bit, because what I found is in the NutriBullet, if you leave them whole, they will not blend down well. You will have chunks of little citrus in your container or in your end product. So I just kind of break them down a little bit, make the surface a little smaller. This entire process takes a little time. You will need patience, but the end result is amazing. It's exactly what you need. You use something that you otherwise would have either thrown away or put in your compost bin, and you're recycling in a way that enriches the soil in your garden. And ultimately, that's what you want. I fill the canister to as full as I would like it. I put the top on, Put it on the base and then blend it down and repeat the process until I'm completely blended all of my citrus peels. Now this was pretty loud, so I'm glad that my microphone wasn't turned on and you all don't have to hear all of this noise. Now that it's blended down, I like to tap it a little bit and shake down that citrus to the bottom of the canister. I let it sit for a little while away from the blade, and that way when I open it, I don't have dry particles flowing up into the air. You want to make sure that you give it a chance to rest, and that way you're not inhaling any of these dry particles. Once that's done, I take the top off and I place it in the container where I keep my citrus. Take a look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? And the smell, oh my goodness, it's amazing. So now I take the cutie peels and I pour them in the container where they're going to reside until I need to use them. I am going to repeat this process until I have processed all of these cuties. So let's get started. But before I do that, I also blend down my eggshells. Now, some people, they roast their eggshells in the oven, they roast them on the stove. I don't do any of that. My hot water in my kitchen sink is extremely hot. I rinse my eggshells very well. I let them sit on the counter for several weeks, and then once I have the time, as you see today, then I blend them down. I use my eggshells for the garden. I use my eggshells for my indoor plants. I even use my eggshells for my worm bin. I'm going to have to pick that up. But I blend my eggshells down and use them for many different purposes in the house and outside. So you add them to your canister. Now, I also get eggshells from the office. As you can see, I have some white eggs. I don't buy white eggs, but I don't mind getting eggs from coworkers. And I fill the canister as far as I want to fill it, close it up, and repeat the blending process like I do with the cuties. Once you finish blending your eggs, I do the same process. I knock on the canister to knock the eggshells down away from the blade. You need to let the eggshells sit a little while because the eggshell particles, in my opinion, smell horrendous, and you do not want to inhale those eggshells. So I'm going to place them in here. As you can see, my canister is empty. I fed the worms, so it's time to fill it back up so I can have something to feed the worms. And I put coffee grounds, eggshells, spent tea, and I also put coconut core in here. So I take my eggshells, dump them inside the canister. I hope you guys saw that little bit of debris that was floating around. That's the eggshell. You want to make sure that you're not inhaling that, and that's what the eggshells look like. This is what this looks like when you're making your own fertilizer. So I'm going to continue to blend down the cuties, the lemon peels, and the eggshells until I am completely done. Now let me show you how I process my tea leaves. Now I take a tea bag, it has to be dry. I cut the top of the bag off and I pour the spent tea leaves inside the container. Now you must make sure that when you are using your scissors to cut your tea bag, that you know whether or not your tea bag is something you can put in the compost bin or if it's something that needs to go in the trash. This tea bag will not break down in the compost bin, so it is going to go into the recycle bin outdoors, and I repeat the process over and over. Now these are tea bags that I use when I make kombucha. As you can see, they're all tied together. Now I'm going to take these tea bags off. You just saw me use this one that I left on the top. I'm not going to open those up. I'm going to show you the one that I've made. I made this tea bag. This tea consists of yerba mate. So I'm just going to take the yerba mate and pour it into the container. Now this bag is a bag you can compost. So once I pour all these tea leaves out, I will take this bag and I can either put it in the compost bin or I can put it in the worm bin. It depends on how I feel, and what I need it for will depend on how I use it. But that's how I make my NPK for my garden as well as my home. And there you have it. Can you see it? I hope you guys can see it. I should have tipped it up a little further so you guys can see it. But I just recycle and continue these processes to make fertilizer in my home. Let's speed this up. Now that I've blended down all of the cuties, I need to blend down the eggs, and finally I need to blend down the lemon peels. The lemon peels are going to go directly into the garden as an insect repellent. All of those cutie peels have blended down quite nicely, and I have a fairly large amount of cutie peels that I can use in the garden as a fertilizer. Now, this is vitamin C. I'll be doing the exact same thing to the eggs in just a moment, but just take a look at this for a second. Look at all that beautiful citrus. Absolutely lovely. Now, I know you're probably wondering what in the world is in that container. This right here is fermented rice water. I rinsed my rice and kept the water and allowed it to sit here for a couple of days and ferment. This is also a very good fertilizer for your indoor plants as well as your outdoor plants, and I will leave some information in the description box below on the benefits of rice water. So as you can see in my kitchen, I do my best to utilize what I have and put it in the garden if I can. I don't throw a lot away. And if you're throwing these resources away, I suggest you rethink that and try to use them in your garden. Also, one other use for rice water is very good for the health of your hair. You just saw me quickly blend down the rest of the eggs, and now it's time to blend down these lemon peels. As I mentioned before, these lemon peels will be used as an insect repellent. I had a couple of little bitty pieces of citrus cutie peels, so I'm just going to put those in there as well. Waste not, want not. Blending these down takes a few minutes, so you must have some patience. Now that I've blended down all of my citrus as well as my eggs, I am ready for the garden. I want to show you one last thing. I also take bones and clean them up and dehydrate them and grind them down to make bone meal. Now, if you've never made bone meal and you'd like to see me do this, let me know in the description box below, and I'll be more than happy to make a video for you of how I make bone meal. I don't eat very much meat, so these bones were gifted to me. You can also do the same thing if you're not a meat eater. You can have bones from family members or co-workers gifted to you. Always remember, use your resources, especially if they're free, and don't forget, you can make fertilizer too. If you've made it to this part in the video, do me a favor, hit that like button, share this video, subscribe to my channel, turn on the notification bell, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye for now.